Right now, two separate hurricanes are spinning at the same time on two different sides of the world, and a brand new tropical wave is entering the Caribbean this exact weekend. If you live anywhere near the Caribbean, Florida, Central America, or even Hawaii, what I'm about to show you could affect your next 7 days. Stay with me until the end, because the biggest surprise in this update comes near the middle, and it involves a storm that almost nobody is talking about yet. This is your Sunday, July 26th weather update, and things are finally getting active after weeks of a quiet, boring pattern. For a long time, the Caribbean has been stuck in a dry stretch. Islands have been begging for rain, but today that pattern is starting to shift, and I want to walk you through everything happening right now, piece by piece, so you know exactly what to expect in your area over the next several days. Let's start with the two hurricanes, because this is the part everyone is asking about. The first one is called Fausto, and it is currently heading toward Hawaii. The second one is called Genevieve, and it is out over the open waters of the eastern Pacific, strengthening as we speak. Both of these systems are being watched closely, and I will walk you through the full path of each one in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about what is happening closer to home, because this is where things get interesting fast. Right now, across the Caribbean, we are watching several pockets of rain and a noticeably better chance of thunderstorms over the next few days. This is not something that has been happening for weeks, so pay attention, because this shift matters. Yesterday morning, a new tropical wave moved into the region. Now, another one is approaching right behind it. And if that was not enough, a brand new tropical wave is coming off the coast of Africa, which means the Atlantic Basin is waking up with a little more action than we have seen in a while. Now, before you panic, let me be very clear about something. I do not chase clicks. I do not exaggerate storms to scare you into watching. Right now, I'm not seeing any signs of hurricane development from these tropical waves. None of them are showing the kind of organization that would turn into something dangerous in the short term. But I also know how quickly the atmosphere can change, and that is exactly why we need to keep tracking this together, day by day. Because a boring tropical wave today can sometimes turn into something bigger by the middle of next week. Here is something that might surprise you. We actually need one of these tropical waves to develop rain, just not a hurricane. Many islands across the Caribbean have been extremely dry, and a strong tropical wave bringing several inches of rain would actually help farmers, help reservoirs, and help communities that have been waiting for relief. So this week is a balancing act. We want the rain, we do not want the wind. Let's talk about something that is affecting millions of people right now and does not get nearly enough attention, and that is Saharan dust. If you have breathing issues, asthma, or any kind of lung sensitivity, this next part is for you. A large plume of dust is currently sitting over the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and it is drifting near the Turks and Caicos. It is also affecting Puerto Rico, the United States and British Virgin Islands, St. Lucia, and areas near Barbados. Some of that dust is even reaching Martinique and Dominica today. Tomorrow, that same dust plume is expected to shift closer to Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula, while also nudging further north toward the Turks and Caicos and the southern Bahamas. If you live in any of these areas and you notice hazy skies, reduced visibility, or irritation in your throat or eyes, this dust is very likely the reason. It is not dangerous for most healthy people, but if you or someone in your family has breathing problems, it is worth taking it seriously over the next 48 hours. Now here's where it gets tricky, and this is honestly one of the most frustrating parts of tracking tropical weather in the Caribbean this week. The next tropical wave moving in is actually a little stronger than the ones we have seen recently, but it is running straight into that same dust cloud I just described. Dust tends to dry out and choke a tropical system, cutting off its moisture and weakening its structure. The good news is that, unlike the previous weak waves, this one is not expected to completely fall apart. The bad news is that the rain from it may be a tease for a lot of us. One island might get soaked, while the island right next to it barely sees a drop. That is simply how these systems behave, when they are fighting against dry air and dust at the same time. So let's go country by country, because I know many of you are watching specifically for your own location, and I do not want to leave anyone out. Starting tonight, we are watching for a slightly better chance of rain overnight, especially from Guadeloupe stretching south through Grenada. Expect scattered showers. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, and Barbados are all in the path of this tropical wave tonight as well. By tomorrow, a couple of showers may finally try to reach the northeastern Caribbean, an area that has been unusually dry for weeks now. Meanwhile, Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic could see a couple of afternoon thunderstorms. Even areas that do not get full thunder and lightning may still see heavy downpours moving through parts of Cuba, along with a few scattered showers reaching back into Central America. Moving into Monday, we are watching a better, though still not widespread, chance of thunderstorms across the Dominican Republic and Haiti. The Bahamas may see a stray pop-up shower here and there, but nothing consistent just yet. Meanwhile, out in the Atlantic, we still have one tropical wave sitting in the central basin and another fresh one coming off the coast of Africa, both of which we will continue watching closely in future updates. Down in Central America, Costa Rica and Panama are expecting pockets of heavier rain, and Guatemala should also watch for areas of rainfall as we move through the week. Now, let's zoom back out to the bigger picture, because this is the part that connects everything together. We currently have Fausto, which is strengthening in the short term as it heads toward Hawaii, and we have Genevieve, which is also strengthening as it moves through the open waters of the Eastern Pacific. There is a third system as well that is expected to begin weakening specifically as it gets closer to Hawaii, and I will zoom into that one in just a moment because it deserves its own detailed breakdown. If you live in California, Mexico, or Guatemala, here is something worth remembering for the rest of the season. Storms in the Eastern Pacific sometimes shift unexpectedly and lift northward, and when that happens, it can catch people off guard. I will be tracking that possibility closely, video after video, so you're never caught by surprise. Right now, this particular system looks like it will meander in more of a west-northwest direction, staying away from the coastline, but that could always change, and that is exactly the kind of shift I watch for, so you do not have to guess. It is also worth understanding why the Eastern Pacific has been so much more active than the Atlantic lately. We are heading into an El Nino pattern this season, and El Nino tends to fuel more named systems, specifically in the Eastern Pacific, while at the same time increasing wind shear over the Atlantic and Caribbean, which tends to suppress development there. That is a big part of why the Atlantic has felt unusually quiet, while the Eastern Pacific has been, in comparison, a very busy and chaotic stretch of ocean, with multiple systems developing close together. Now, let's really dig into what is heading toward Hawaii, because I know a lot of you have been asking for a detailed timeline. By the time we reach Monday at 5 o'clock in the evening Caribbean time, which lines up with roughly lunchtime on Monday in Hawaii, the system will still not have arrived yet. Swells will already be building in advance of it, though, and the storm will be in a weakening phase by this point. The forecast models are still a bit split on the exact track. Some models place the center a little further north, while others push it a bit further south. By Tuesday, around midday Hawaii time, one set of models places the center in a specific position, while other models shift that same center further south. If the storm does end up tracking more to the south, then even as a weakening system, there's a better chance of tropical storm impacts actually reaching land. Either way, and this is the important part, Hawaii will still be dealing with a nearby weakening system, and everyone in the islands needs to watch out for rain bands. Even if the center of the storm passes to the north, the backside flow can still wrap moisture back into Honolulu, and additional moisture can move in from the south side as well. So do not assume you are safe just because the center misses you directly. Early Wednesday, the system continues pushing closer, and then, later on Wednesday afternoon Hawaii time, the center is expected to be somewhere specific along its track. Those scattered rain bands will still be a concern well outside of that exact center point. Here is something a lot of people do not think about with weakening tropical systems, and it genuinely surprised meteorologists in past seasons too. The higher terrain across the Hawaiian Islands can actually enhance rainfall, even when a storm is technically weakening. Mountains force air upward, which can squeeze out extra rain in specific pockets, even from a storm that looks less dangerous on paper. Some areas may barely notice the storm at all because they are sheltered from the wind and rain by the terrain, while other nearby areas, just a short drive away, could deal with landslides and localized flooding from that same exact storm. In terms of wind speeds, some of the strongest areas on the model maps are currently showing winds around 70 miles per hour. As the storm continues its weakening trend, it will be entering cooler ocean water, which is typically the main reason storms lose strength this time of year heading toward Hawaii. As it approaches, wind speeds are expected to drop from around 50 miles per hour down toward 40 miles per hour, though isolated, higher gusts are still possible, especially in and around those rain bands. Once again, the exact impact really does depend on whether the storm tracks slightly north or slightly south, and that is something I will continue updating you on as new model data comes in. I want to be clear that even though this storm is weakening, that does not mean it should be taken lightly. It is currently a hurricane. It simply will not still be classified as a hurricane by the time it reaches Hawaii. But hurricane-force winds are not the only danger from a tropical system. Building seas, dangerous surf, sudden downpours, and terrain-driven flooding can all still cause real problems, even from what meteorologists officially label as a weakening tropical storm. Now let's shift over to Genevieve, because this one is behaving very differently. Genevieve is expected to get stronger and eventually become a major hurricane. The current track keeps it staying south of the Baja Peninsula, which is good news for that particular coastline. If anything changes with that track, I will update you immediately, but as of right now, its southern track is what the data is showing. Let's head back north for a moment, because there is important rain heading toward the southeastern United States as well. Cuba is watching some spotty showers, and the Bahamas will see a front sinking in that is expected to bring thunderstorms to central and north Florida today, with an even better chance of storms across the entire Florida peninsula tomorrow. Some of these storms could be strong enough to produce